when we speak about CBAM in Turkey, it has a slightly different name.
Sure.
Right? It's SKDM.
Sınırda karbon düzenleme mekanizması.
Welcome to the Dubrink podcast, where we explore the ins and outs of CBAM. Join us as we dive into the latest strategies and insights to help your business stay ahead. Let's get started. Let's get started. Carbon border, let's adjust. Finding solutions.
Welcome back to the Dubrink podcast. I'm your host, Jan-Joos den Brinker, CTO of Dubrink. And my co-host, Marcel, he's not here today, taking a little bit of time off to enjoy the holidays. But I'm not alone. I have a guest with us here. All the way from Turkye, I have the wonderful Emel Çalışkan. Do I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, correct.
From Turkey. She is a lead auditor, verifier. She's a businesswoman. She's a mother of two. And she's the host today, or guest today, on the Dubrink podcast. Welcome, Emel.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to see you.
We've spent the last few days together having lots of interesting discussions about ETS, about CBAM, of course.
Yes.
And about CASEM. This is the company that you and your husband...
Yes. We established it in 15 years ago, let's say. It's about consultancy company. We both, my husband and me, are industrial engineers. So we have been working consultancy in different parts, in different areas. And yes, I'm working with my husband, and we have two children, and we live in Sakarya, Turkey. And it's happy to be here. Thank you very much again to giving this chance to us.
Yeah, you guys are active in different kinds of consulting within the environmental space.
Yes.
There's dangerous goods. There's
dangerous goods and environmental consultancy, which is the first one for us. And then we had ESG consultancy. And we have another one. We have a baby company, which is related with the carbon credits.
Okay, and then we're talking about the project development and the certification.
Yes.
You have 5 offices, right?
Yes, we have 5 offices in Turkey. Our headquarters in Sakarya, and we have in Izmir one, and we have Adana and etc. All through the Turkey, let's say.
Now, Izmir, I guess it will be agricultural hub because there will be a lot of clients there.
Yes. In Izmir, mostly agricultural, let's say. Adana depends mostly on steel.
That's actually what I would be most interested in because it probably is one of the biggest topics for CBAM, right?
Yes.
What type of customers do you have? What kind of customers do you have?
We have steel making productions in Adana, and they are producing every kind of products, let's say, and mostly our customers producing pipes related with the natural gas, let's say, and every small and big and every pipe they can produce. So we are calculating their CBAM calculations and so on.
And these are very large clients as well.
Yes, very large clients because we have very large ports in Adana and next by other cities. So they established there, especially in Turkey, and they are very big.
Aluminium is also a big topic.
Yes, aluminium is also a big topic for Turkey too.
And are we talking about primary materials or
secondary mostly? We have one primary company in Turkey, and it's in Adana too, near Adana, let's say, and the other ones all secondary.
And where do they get the materials from, the primary materials? Because this will be imported, I guess.
Mostly in India, Australia, Brazil. They got.
Yeah, I understand. I remember that the first time you and I did a run-through of the Dubrink platform, you came to me with quite a complicated use case.
Yes.
I think it was maybe one of the first times that I actually saw somebody use that. And it was, I believe this was related to aluminium.
Yes.
It was, and
they are producing their own energy in their facility. And we call it
CHP, right?
CHP.
Combined heat power?
Yes,
Yeah.
cogeneration.
Exactly.
Yeah, unit. And they are producing their energy. So the calculation can be most difficult, the other ones, let's say, but they need their energy to produce themselves.
And how does this work, like in practice? Are you guys going into the factory, doing
Sure.
the measurements?
Sure. First, we go to factory to see the greenhouse gas points and clarify them truly, let's say. And then we got the datas, which datas we need. We ask them for, and then we are going to calculate this. But especially for the cogeneration units, there is manual about it. So how much natural gas or other fuels they burn in it, and then how much terajoules energy they got from the unit.
Yeah. And this is very tricky because there is also the efficiency of the cogeneration unit. There is waste gas.
Yes.
There is all kinds of complicated factors.
Yes.
Now, I guess this was not something that you guys do only for CBAM, right? This
Yes,
must have also been
they are
ESG
using every time that unit, so they need their efficiency too to manage the production management, let's say. So they are using every time, and we are using apart from CBAM too.
What I find it very interesting that you guys are really, technical engineers almost that come in. And another one of those topics is the measurable heat.
Yes,
right?
measurable heat is mostly in steel sector, and they have, as you know, it is mostly in casting sector, let's say steel casting sector. They have a last furnace, and where they get from the measurable heat, and with this heat they are using the other parts of the company, let's say heating the rooms, heating the office, etc. So this is another kind of calculation in the CBAM too, but as I said, mostly in steel manufacturing. We are using this calculation too.
And what is your typical client like? What does that typical client engagement look like? You pick up the phone or they call you probably at this point? Because
we have a good representing in LinkedIn, etc. And my husband works very hard on it. So mostly customers call us, but in the similar sector, customers, they tell each other about the CASEM, and then we made with them, and calculations has been done, so you can make with them too, like that. So mostly they come.
Now, when we speak about CBAM in Turkey, it
Yes.
has a slightly different name,
Sure.
right? It's SKDM.
CBAM. Sınırda karbon düzenleme mekanizması, the capitals of the names, let's say, SKDM.
Yeah, this is very confusing because in France they call it MACF. In Spanish it's MAFC, so it's always changing a little bit. But at least Turkey is really proactive in this. There is a lot of suppliers in Turkey.
Sure.
I was quite surprised. I know Turkey as a holiday destination.
Yeah.
But it's a massive industrial hub.
Sure.
There's so many factories there.
Sure.
And
Turkey has a good geopolitical point and geographical point, let's say, and climate is very suitable for Turkey to produce some products, let's say. So we call in Turkey that Turkey is the backyard of the Europe. So these kind of topics, forward topics, generally comes from Europe, and Turkey's firm are getting very fastly growing and developing because the time is information and technology era, let's say communication era, and Turkey has very good infrastructure about the technology, so information can spread very quickly to Turkey. So we are doing good on this.
I do know about some problems, though.
Yeah.
We
tried to, in every sense, let's say.
We tried to talk about we tried to pick the most, the biggest topics and the biggest problems that we found. The first on my list is misclassification of
Yes.
goods. Maybe I was quite surprised when I heard this. Maybe you can explain a little bit what I mean with that.
Yeah. As my example,
Yeah.
which I told you before, one of our customer produces the electrical transformers. So in that product, they have different kinds and lots of parts in it. Aluminum parts, steel parts, maybe plastic parts. And they have on their CN codes, let's say. But the company assemble these parts and make it a transformer. So their product is transformer, and its CN code is different, like starting with another, not steel, not aluminum, let's say another kind of CN code. And that CN code doesn't under the CBAM regulation. But in Europe, their customer, they want the calculations from our customer in Turkey. They confused. So there is a classification between the CN codes, let's say.
Yeah, and I looked up the exact scenario. So the Turkish guys are sending that under 850421, which is a transformer of some kind. But then by the time that it arrives to Europe, they basically say this is, sheet metal or whatever used for so and so. And that was strange, but surely it's still a metal. Yeah, there's sheet metal around it. I can to a certain degree see, okay, fair enough, this is... I can see maybe there's you call it this, you call it that. But what I found very strange was the example about the boxes.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? We talked about, I believe it was 340 or something like this, which is a cardboard box, right? Mm-hmm. But your exporters, the Turkish exporters, they put aluminium foil.
Foils in it, little, very thin oils they are using.
And then by the time that arrives to Europe, the Europeans... think or conclude that is a CBAM good.
Yes, this is an aluminum good for us, they told to our customer. So you should do the calculations. We were shocked by then.
So this misalignment, it is historical, I believe, right?
Sure.
Your government is in charge of...
Yes, we told the related sites in government, let's say, and they will talk to the custom companies in Turkey, and they will fix it, even if all transitional period going on. I hope we will fix it.
Yeah, and in Europe, it's also quite a complicated process to fix that. It takes like 6 months to file for a BTI, but then we have to see if it's even accepted, I guess. Yeah. Maybe on this topic, we have a new free tool available now. It's check.dubrink.com. This is also for the audience. Check.dubrink.com. It's free. If you're an exporter or an importer, you put your CN code in there, and we basically tell you if it's a CBAM good or not. Now, it won't fix the misalignment, but you can put, say, the transformer code 8504 in the system.
It's very useful as a user. I can tell it helps us very much. It's very easy to use. You just type the numbers and then you will see if it is ETS or not.
Yes. So this is check it out and use it to your advantage. I guess. Another topic that was a big problem that also actually was part of one of the first conversations we had.
Yes.
Was about subcontracting.
Yeah, what's gonna happen over there? Because, I asked you, as you remember.
Yeah, exactly. Because I believe that in Turkey, the way it works is that very often the production of, let's say, galvanized steel is not done in the same primary facility as
generally it is. Generally in steel sector, let's say, the galvanization firms apart from the other firms, and they do just galvanization on there. So they have energy consumptions, but they don't sell to Europe, let's say. So they are asking us why we are to calculate our embedded emissions, because we don't sell to Europe. We are selling to our Turkish customers. So it is confused. Thing for us, but last updates, as you know, we will just take their energy consumptions from subcontractors, let's say, but it is still a little bit problem for us. We will see the next period what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I wrote it down here. It's question 86 of the Q&A sheet of the European Union. And basically it says now that processes that occur in secondary installations or outsourced, so it doesn't have to be even a third party. It can actually be, you just have a second plant that does the galvanization. You can basically consider that as if they're happening in the same, in the primary installation. This makes it a little bit easier.
Sure.
And I guess it just shows that the nature of CBAM, it's just constantly evolving from insights from the industry. People are like, well, listen, this is crazy. I do 80% of the work here, 5% of the process happens outside, it comes back, and then I finish it up, and then I sell it. It's like, it's a nightmare too.
Yes.
So I think this is a good step forward.
Sure.
It makes it a little easier.
It makes sense from that time too for us too.
Yeah, and one of the other things that now is a little bit easier, I guess, is the changes in the communication template.
Yes.
Now, they're not major changes. They're not super revolutionary. And it's about the emission factor.
Yeah, it helps. It helps.
Because previously, you would just take the SEE indirect, maybe the
calculated and
exactly
then
embedded electricity, divide one by the other, and out comes the emission factor. And now they added that.
Yes, we will see which country uses what emission factor easily. Don't make any mistake when you dividing the numbers, let's say. So it will be easy and comfortable for us.
We also now have the zip code or postcode that is mandatory for operators and installation addresses.
Yes.
On this topic, you don't have that in Turkey, right?
Yeah, address system is a little bit different in Turkey, and we have postcode, but we don't call it another zip code, let's say. So this is not mandatory for us, but yes, there is a little bit upgrade for it.
We have, some customers, they only have the name of the supplier and they have maybe the city, because that was mandatory up until this point.
Yes.
You have the name of the supplier or the exporter, you have the city and maybe the country. But now all these guys have to collect extra information.
Yes.
What is the zip code? And okay, sure, not every country has that, but
address systems has changed country by country. So zip code, we will see what's going to happen. Maybe we will write our postcodes over there. We will see. I don't know right now.
Yeah. Another topic that comes up a lot is precursors.
Oh, sure.
I guess it has to do with the fact that Turkey does not produce a lot of the primary materials, and it is dependent on taking that from a Turkish perspective outside of the country, and tell me about that. What kind of problems do you see in the market?
About the precursors, it's the main problem for us, even if they not in the Turkey. And we should separate the precursors producers like non-EU and EU producers of precursor, let's say, and getting from them embedded emissions is very hard. Think about like that. They are selling to Turkey, like subcontractors, let's say. They are selling to Turkey, and they tell us we don't need to calculate anything because we are selling to Turkey, but Turkey sells Europe, so this is a problem, really big problem. They don't know how to calculate. They don't need to calculate. Let's say there was a big fight about it. You should calculate and giving us, and then we will put our embedded emissions on it, and then we will sell to Europe. So this is kind of problem for us, but. When we come to EU producers for the precursor, they are saying that we are under the ETS, or sometimes they don't know if they are under the ETS or not, or couldn't tell us, and they don't have the calculations like we did as you know, we are using different calculations. You have a platform to type the calculations in Europe. So they don't know how we calculate. So they tell us in Europe, customer precursors, producers, let's say, not customer. They say to us, we don't have to do it. So what's gonna happen? We check the regulation and we check the question and answers part, and we solved in some ways.
And it is, of course, quite confusing because you are basically, this is something that I didn't know before this whole CBAM thing started, that you are a producer in Turkey. Sure, you get your raw material from somewhere, but yeah, I wouldn't have imagined that there is an Italian guy selling his stuff to the Turks, modifying that and sending it back into Europe. I mean, it's quite logical if you think about it, but it makes it much more complicated. And for these precursors, it does kind of make sense that you have to include them in your calculations if they are from outside of the EU.
Yeah.
But if they're from the EU,
yes,
like, I understand the confusion. These guys are like,
sure,
we pay CBAM when it comes across the border. You know, we don't have to do all this math by the time that we are sending it to you. But it turns out, you know, you kind of have to, at least now, because this is actually this is one of the things that they're talking about, right? That if the ETS, if the goods produced in Europe fall under the ETS, then in order to simplify CBAM, basically it would be exempt. But it's still, you know, in the works. It was one of the things that was proposed in the recent expert meeting. And I think it makes sense.
Sure.
Again, it's one of those things, right? Just with the subcontracting.
Yes.
Just
similar risk.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes it a little bit more workable to see that. If you don't get the information from sub-suppliers or from precursor providers, how do you do this now?
Until, let's say, 31st of June, we use default values as the Commission gives us. But when we come to the October, we would have our clues about not getting the data from our precursor producers. We have emails or etc. when we talk about in it, and mostly our customers choose using default values right now.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how this is going to evolve, because
yes, we too.
Again, they made another couple of updates about default values being.
It should be clarified. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm curious about deadlines. There is another deadline that is quite important. Of course, now we're recording this last week of December.
Yeah.
Probably by the time it will go online, it will be January. But,
yes, it
course,
will start again.
Yeah, the first real deadline that we have coming up is the 31st of Jan. That's basically the reporting Q4 reporting period deadline. But it's also a time or a deadline where they said that maybe by that time we will announce scope expansions. We will add more products to CBAM. And
new CN codes, right?
Exactly, new CN codes, but within the same category. So iron, steel, aluminium, probably those will be the most likely ones that will be impacted. They're talking about that, but then the real scope, like extra sectors, ceramics or glass or something like this. Plastic. I mean,
chemical is good.
That's something. They haven't talked about what sectors, of course. This is all speculation, but they did say that something like that might come. But if it comes, that will come in 2026 and onwards. But we do see January is going to be quite an interesting time, because we're going to see more products, more CN codes, and they're going to change probably the rules regarding the de minimis exception. So from the European importer side, the €150 minimum that applies whether or not it's CBAM or not. So this is something that we're going to see. I also want to ask you about basically carbon price paid, because right now there's no ETSs that are recognized under CBAM, but there is an ETS for Turkey that is at least close to being finished.
Yes, they announced, the government announced in COP 29, as you know, in Baku. our regulations related with the emission trading systems or climate change or climate regulations will published in next new year, 2025. So we will preparing it already to publish, and we will get used to it as a consultants firms and to make the customers or producers to make them ready for it. So we will have our national emission trading systems by the end of the 2025. It will start to work, let's say, by the European side, and same time they will start, I think.
And the big topic is, of course, like, is it going to be recognized by the EU? Because if it's not recognized, then it's nice for local purposes, but not for CBAM.
Sure.
But if I understand correctly, it mirrors the EU ETS a lot.
Yeah, everything, like every regulation in Turkey, if it's come from the European side, yes, we mirror the European regulations, let's say. So, and in our ways, let's say, in Turkish production system or regulation system, etc. But we mirror Europe, right?
And it will be a little bit like the first pilot phase of the ETS in Turkey. It's going to be limited, right? Not everyone is going to be impacted, of course. Do you know anything about the scope?
It will be, they told us it will in scope 1, but not all of the scope 1. It will fuel combustions area and energy, I think.
Energy and process emissions are also part of it?
Yeah, process emission. I'm sorry, not energy.
Because that's scope 2,
yes,
right?
Yes, that's scope 2.
So combustion
and process emissions.
And then nobody cares about the fuel. About the vehicles.
Yes, mobile combustions
will be out of
be.
That will be out of scope. And what's the other one? Fugitive. F-gas leakage.
Leakages will not be.
That will not be part of it. And 500,000 tons, I believe. So what is the type? How many companies are we talking about?
It is like 130 or something. I'm not quite sure about it, but the big ones will affected from these limited regulation system, let's say, and then we will make bigger and bigger by year, let's say.
Sure. Yeah, just introduce it slowly.
Yes,
that's what I mean.
Of course, and we have GHG regulation, one GHG regulation in Turkey right now, but we they just calculate and declare it, verify it, and then so on. We don't pay anything, but after New Year, we're gonna have national system.
Okay. And 135 customers or 135 companies that that will be paid. What percentage of that are you going to be dealing with?
We will be 50% of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like you have a lot of work over the
next.
Are you preparing for additional growth?
Sure. We are educating our consultants too, and we will add some new people in our firm, in our company.
Rapidly expanding. Now, another thing that you guys do, it's corporate footprint calculation or corporate carbon footprint calculation.
Corporate carbon footprint calculations and product carbon footprint calculations. Water footprint we are calculating. It is a new topic, as you know. And so on, LCAs, we are working on it. And EPD, environmental product declaration, we are working on too.
And for these company or corporate, this is a very new concept for me as well. So the corporate footprints, the way I understand it is that this is where carbon credits are very interesting because you can use this to offset your footprint.
Footprints, yes.
And you guys are also in the process of starting to add this as a service, right? Where you're going to...
Yes, we have a new baby company related with this. We will develop the projects related where we generate the credits, let's say. We will develop the projects and we will verify it. And then our names as CASEM will list on that list that customers can buy the credits from there, and they will choose the credit from all over the world. We can be able to sell and generate, let's say. So it's our new baby. It's a new product for us, but it will be a very big topic in this sector, let's say.
So, and this is something that we see with CBAM a lot, right? Where there's a lot of speculation, and before you know it, that speculation turns into reality. Back when it started, it's like, well, CBAM is nice, but it's only a few products, but they're going to add products. And then now they're actually having that conversation. More products will be added. And now they said, yep, we are actually going to add the products. January is the deadline.
Yes.
More scopes, another topic. And these carbon credits, it's also part of that because they are now saying, well, maybe yes, maybe not. If my supplier can buy carbon credits and offset their emissions.
So embedded emissions will be lower.
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So right now the SEC qualified carbon credits as an ETF. So it's a proper financial instrument. They really consider it as that. It was also a big topic at COP29. So I'm very curious and it will be kind of exciting.
It will be a very big financial item for us. So to use, especially in carbon sector. So it will be very big. Me and my husband guess like that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think we're still very early in the process.
Sure.
So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's.
We are learning together. CBAM is like that issue for Europe and us, for Turkey, I can say. But we are learning together at the same time. Communication era works truly good. So we will learn.
And is Turkey considering CBAM at all, like their own CBAM? Do you think, or is that not likely to happen? That you'll have your own carbon border mechanism.
Yeah, sure, we will have. We will see.
Because if you have an ETS, sooner or later you're going to have to also fence it off at the border.
Turkey will accept everything from Europe. Be sure about this, but it's a global issue. Let's say carbon footprint is a global issue, like as a climate problem. So we should lower the carbon footprint. So CBAM will be good for Turkey too.
Okay, and well, I'm pretty much done with my questions, Emel. I had a really wonderful time. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you too.
And let me also finish the podcast here. Okay. Thank you for listening. If you have any comments, please be so kind to reply. We're always watching and listening to the feedback that you guys give us. Like and subscribe. And if you want to streamline your CBAM, just check out dubrink.com. We're here to help you. Have a nice day.
Let's get started.
Bye-bye.
Let's adjust. Finding solutions is a must. Innovation drives our future.